Hi, welcome to Module 4 of the Liberty Public Schools Literacy Framework. This month we will be taking a look at fluency and how to make instructional decisions based on observations. For this module, we really want to focus on what running records are, how often you should be giving them based on the student's grade level and reading level, and then more importantly, what do you do after you give that running record? A running record is a tool that helps teachers to identify patterns in student reading behaviors. These patterns allow a teacher to see the strategies a student uses to make meaning of individual words and text as a whole. Running records, when paired with comprehension inquiry, can be used to identify an instructional reading level for individual students. While running records are a diagnostic tool, they can and should be used to inform instruction and help extend a reader's use of strategies for working on text. When we talk about fluency, we're talking about four main components. Accuracy is the ability to read without word identification problems. Rate or speed is being able to read without hesitation and automatically. Prosody is the ability to read smoothly and speak reading like you're having a conversation. And then also the component of being able to comprehend what you're reading. The main reason why we need our students to be fluent readers is because if our students are spending all of their time trying to decode words, then they're not able to devote their time to understand the text. The more we can help our students be fluent with their reading, the more time they can devote to diving deeper into the text and understanding the meaning. This chart was taken directly from Reading A to Z, and it gives kind of a rough outline for how frequently you should be assessing your students with running records. So depending on their level, the lower level they are, the more frequently you need to be administering a running record. Now, with that being said, running records should not be just administered at scheduled times. Truly, you can assess students on running records within the context of the school day. If students are reading in a center or independent reading time during Reader's Workshop, this is a perfect time for you to be able to take out a blank running record form and just quickly sit beside a student and assess them on a text that they have selected. Just as a refresher for running records, we found this example on Reading A to Z of a running record sheet that had already been filled in. So with Reading A to Z, it had the pre-printed text, and the teacher did a check mark for each word that the student got correct, and then kind of had their codes for when the student made an error. Off to the side, every running record sheet is a little bit different, but E is for errors, SC is self-correct. Here, with the E at the top, you're evaluating the errors. Was it meaning, was it structure, or was it visual? And then same for self-corrections. Several running record forms that I've seen teachers use more frequently don't have the self-correction category. But again, feel free to use a system that you're comfortable with. The importance of a running record is truly to evaluate the systems that a student is using successfully and the systems that the student's struggling with. Oftentimes, we give a running record and then we don't always allow ourselves the time that we need to truly look at the errors that the student's making and make instructional decisions. When we're talking about MS and V, which I'm sure everyone has heard, just to dig a little bit deeper into that, M is for meaning cues, and those can come from a variety of sources. Are they making sense of that from the illustrations, from the plot, the characters, the setting, the mood, those types of things? A lot of times the reader's background experience and schema can play into that because if they have a lot of background knowledge with the subject matter, it's much easier for them to make sense of the story as they read. And the cue that teachers use a lot is, does that make sense? So when students are strong in that area, they tend to draw from the meaning that they have and the meaning that they're understanding from the story. And so when they're making errors, the words that they're substituting still make sense. When we're talking about S, that's the structure or syntactic clues. And so structure cues are determined by the word order or the syntax of the words in a sentence. So with that, really cueing our students to say, would that sound right to say it that way? And when we're talking about V, that's the visual cues. And visual cues are how the reader uses the printed material to interpret the story. And when we're talking about visual cues, that includes the letter and sound relationships, the spaces between words, um, the size of the print, punctuation, the way the print is placed on the page. And these aspects of the printed text have no letter or sound relationship, but knowing how to attend to them is critical in becoming an effective reader. Now, visual cues are not the cues the reader attends to by looking at the picture. And I think that gets confused a lot. When students are using the picture heavily, that actually goes up in meaning. They're making sense of the pictures to help them with the story. The visual cues are the words themselves. And so, again, asking students, really prompting them, does that look right when they are reading a word and making errors to help them really rely on that strategy if they struggle with the visual cues. So, Lisa Gray did a running record with a third grade student, and we will look at that and kind of evaluate that to see how that student's doing, and then as a teacher, what you would do to guide that student.
Crowd of people gather in a forest in India. They were watching a large rhino that was stuck in a mud pit. The rhino repeatedly tried to escape. She could not get free. Her back leg. She was she was getting tired. The doctors from a nearby rescue center arrived. They gave a rhino the medication. Other rescue workers dug a pathway out of the pit. Thanks to these efforts, the rhino pulled herself from the mud. She walked back into the forest. About 2 weeks after, rhinos live in parts of India where the rescue center is located. Workers at the center help rhinos and other animals who may be kidnapped or hurt. Some animals live at the center for years. Others are given aid in released quickly. The goal of the center is to help animals save working towards this goal. Workers do remarkable things at the plant and other animals
So here is a copy of the running record form that Lisa Gray filled out as she was listening to that student read. So this was a level R text on reading A to Z, which is a level 34. There was 160 words. And so as she went through, as you can see, Lisa did not mark every single word that the student said with a check mark like we had seen in the example of reading A to Z. And I think oftentimes you'll find that with the faster the student reads, the harder it is to keep up with that. So Lisa just marked the errors. So there was several examples where she left out A, or she would self-correct, she would repeat. There was some substitutions with A versus the, where she added the, instead of rhino medicine, she added the medication, which again still made sense. So when Lisa was finished with it, she went through, added up the errors. So in 160 words, the student made 10 errors. She self-corrected 3 times. And with her errors, the cues that she was using to help her, meaning was very heavy. The student was able to substitute words that still made sense in the story, and most of them sounded right. At the very end, instead of other animals each and every day. She said every day and each day, which you would challenge the student to really think about, does that sound right? So, in looking at it, she did have longer phrases. She read very quickly, and then when she would get stuck, she would repeat to get herself going again. There was expression at times, then there was parts where she would get stuck, and so then it would become choppy, and then she would get going again where it was longer phrases. So she had 105 words correct per minute. Now, sometimes the running record forms will just say WPM for words per minute, and Reading A to Z specifies that it's the words correct per minute. So this student had a 93% accuracy rate on her grade level text. So we took the running record and compared it to the district provided scoring guide for fluency. The student scored right where she should be for mid-year third grade. So using the second part of the rubric where you can decide with expression of volume, phrasing, smoothness, pace, and rate. And obviously this is subjective based on your opinion of the reading, but overall, this student is showing that this text level is an independent level. So when we think about instructional implications and next steps for this kiddo, an effective reader's processing with their MS and V looks more like this. It should be pretty even that they're relying on meeting visual and structural. This third grader was much heavier on the meaning side, and so as the teacher, you would really want to focus on building that cueing system, a visual cueing system, and the structural cueing system. So looking at the student, I think helping with tracking and slowing down. Fast readers are often mistaken for fluent readers, but if for this student, for example, slowing down would help her a lot to just be more aware of the words that she's reading, like every day and each day versus each and every day. Helping that student to stop and think about, does that sound right? Have I heard that said before? Um, Again, just having the student listen to fluent reading with more expression, phrasing. Um, and with any student, repeated readings and listening to reading is going to be a huge asset in building fluency. On the Literacy Framework website, under the Fluency tab, we've included this prompting guide to help you with instructional implications. So once you've analyzed what system the student needs work with, it shows the system, prompts that you can give as the teacher, and then modeling that you can do either one-on-one and conferring, or if you have an invitational group or a guided reading group. By doing running records frequently, you as the teacher will really be able to see the patterns that emerge from the child's reading behavior. Obviously, reading one time, the child will make certain errors and they can ultimately read that same passage a different day and make different errors. So the more that you're listening to your student read and taking running records, the more you can look for those common themes and truly get behind those consistent errors the child is making and address those so that the child can move forward with their reading. On the rest of this module, we've included just some good resources and tips for helping develop fluency in your students and within your classroom. At the bottom, we have resources and tools for instruction. And so we have links that you can click on that will take you to research, some good tips. Reading A to Z has some really great resources. Reading Rockets and the research behind building fluency. And then the last one is 7 tips to make running records manageable and useful. As with any of the literacy framework components, please feel free to contact any of your building coaches if you need assistance or want to learn more, and we would be happy to assist you. Thank you so much.